What's up, fam? On this episode, we're going to start our episodes on the I Confess Confession of Dads, or Dad Confessions, on these episodes. And today, what you're going to have a treat with is one of my most admired. I admire this person so much, and he's coming on the podcast and share what it is, his confessions of being a Catholic dad, a brand new dad, and share that wisdom, that gained wisdom with you. So stay tuned for this coming episode. Ready? Here we go.
Different points of view and highs and lows. A new perspective everywhere you go. Open up your mind, drown out the noise, and see if this connected. And see if this connected.
What's up, fam? And thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for coming back. I'm really excited with these episodes because it's about talking to other dads like me. As you know, my handle is Catholic.dad on Instagram. On most places, people call me Catholic Dad. So I wanted these series of episodes to talk to regular, ordinary, local people about what their experiences are about being a dad. And today, who do I have here? No one else other than the guy who wrote and who sang our theme song to the podcast. This guy right here, we have Diego. So welcome to the show, Diego, and welcome again. I haven't seen you in like so long.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for the invitation. It's an honor to be here, to be able to share, God's gifts that He has bestowed my wife and I with. That is, being a dad. So, yeah, anything I can share definitely is, I'm willing to sort of like be able to, put it out there for anyone that's in that path or considering just kind of like maybe gearing towards that direction of fatherhood.
Amen. I just noticed the hat that you're wearing. It says Estoville. And I just remember that. This was a group of young guys I used to walk with, Estoville. And do you know what that means, Estoville?
Is it be a man? Or?
Be a man. And it's like, what better hat to wear on this day where it's just two guys talking? And I know you're a little nervous because you're probably wondering, like, what's he going to ask me? And this literally is just going to be a conversation between two guys. I love this episode because I don't have to worry about, being judged because, we listen and we judge. But welcome to the show, Diego. And this is going to be fun. I think this is going to be really fun in doing this podcast with you because you're one of the youngest people I know who's actually a brand new dad. You have two children, two sons.
Two sons, yes.
Raising them to be men. And that's going to be so amazing. So tell us about, if people haven't heard the episode, you and Ellie, your wife, have been on the podcast and talked about the things. I mean, you guys are literally been on the show since you guys were, I think you guys weren't even married yet.
No, we aren't yet.
The first episode that you guys went on, I think, was a Valentine's Day episode where I think you guys were talking about, you guys were like engaged.
Yes, and I think it was along with other two couples, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, it's been a while since we did that. Since we got married a few years back, we're going into already, what is it, 5 years, 6 years?
Yeah, almost 6 years because the podcast is going into its 7th year.
Yeah.
So, 6 years ago, you're on this episode with two other couples and talking about dating. You guys are literally talking about dating, and now you're on the show again talking about being a father. So, tell us about your journey. I was there at your wedding. Beautiful wedding, beautiful couple. But tell us your journey to fatherhood. What I always want to know is, how was your experience of being as a son, and how was your experience about having your own father? It's like, what was your experience? I'll share, because I think it's not good for me to ask when I don't share my own. I didn't have a father. I had a father, but I didn't know who my father was. I didn't know who he was because he passed away when I was very young. So I grew up on stories about my father. And the funny thing is, I always thought my father was like huge, like at least 6 foot tall, at least 6 feet tall. Like my mom, my sisters, like blew up my dad. That I thought, like, man, he must have been huge. And when I did see him, I think I was like 7 or something like that. So he was huge. So come to find out later, when I'm looking at his death certificates and things like that, he was only 5'6". He was 5'6", 145 pounds. I'm like, he was tiny. And so, like, but the image I had of my father was huge. He was a big man in heart and spirit, and his generosity and his kindness. So that's how I had my own version of fatherhood. But with me, I was looking, growing up, I was looking for a father figure. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for a father figure. And I had friends who had dads, so I was like, kind of adopted them as my own. But you, Diego, you have your dad. And so how was your experience of being fathered?
Well, I mean, I was born in Mexico, and I would say there were some years of my life that my dad wasn't there, because he came to the U.S. to work so that he could provide, because it turns out my dad and my mom, well, became like I came to be because they were 17 years old, and I mean, I was probably like that unplanned accident, but yeah, my dad had to sort of like grow up, at a young age. So he had to come to the U.S. And work, and so there were some years that I essentially was sort of like raised by women, like my mom, my aunts, and so my dad wasn't there for some years. Like I always remember, like thinking back when like my mom and my mom and myself were at the house in Mexico. I remember always like asking about my dad, like, oh, my dad this, my dad that, and like he was over here. And so initially I had that yearning of like wonder, oh, my dad this, my dad that, and so I did have that experience where, sort of like to connect with what you said, like you had some sort of like mystery, or like you envisioned your dad in a certain way. I did have that experience. Luckily, I did have the the experience to be with my dad, be around him, and learn a lot from him. One of the things that I learned from him was his like I remember thinking back. One of the things that I remember well about him is that he was brave, in the sense that, being a young father, he would in Mexico, he would be in charge of a like, I don't know how to say it in English, a huerto. It's like where they have like guava trees, and he would be in charge of like this big guava tree plantation. And so I remember that he would go and like in the like 2-3 in the morning, he would have to stay, and like he would have to like water all the guava trees, and he would have to stay in the night, pass the night there. And of course, over there in Mexico, I don't know if it's the same in the Philippines, but like there were like stories about, oh, like mystery stories that like ghosts were there, or stuff like that. So it's like I remember like, and hearing about like other people, like other countries, like they test men in that they would like leave the guys who were considered to be men, like they would take them to like like in the night, and then they would leave them alone there, and they had to kind of like just um, like um, face that sort of like fear, and if they pass the test, then they would become men. Like that's kind of like how I saw my dad. Like he was a young father who was brave, and he would like actually had to endure like maybe fears that he had to undergo to provide for me and my mom, and I think that's one of the things that like I remember most about him, and also his work ethic to provide for us. So like that, like perseverance to always like provide for us. Yeah, I think that's one of the like his brave like his braveness.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things where when we look at when we look at fathers, we try to emulate their courage. You know, it's kind of like, are they are they that person that have that courage to be able to you know someone that we can look up to. And it's not to say that young men can't look up to their mothers, but mothers are like, they're your moms. But and moms can always tell you, be brave, be brave. But fathers, even though they don't have to tell you to be brave, basically they tell you, they show you courage. My father had very few words. I think in the years that I knew him, I can count in one hand how many words he said to me. Again, I was the youngest of 9, so by that time he probably didn't really want to talk to any of us. But again, it's one of those where, wow, he didn't talk much, but he did show it by action, and I think that's the big difference. So you obviously, honor your dad, and you look up to him. So now, what did you learn from him that you are using to raise your own sons? Well, first, before we get to that, it's like, tell us about your journey to become a father.
um, like be maybe a little bit more specific,
like when you become it, like when Ellie got pregnant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's start with there.
Yeah.
How did you feel when all of a sudden Ellie's pregnant and you're gonna be a dad?
Okay. Well, maybe to before going on to that, like I remember when we were preparing to get married. I remember Father Brandon, who was the one who married us. I had to go. Actually, I think it was it with Father Brandon. So we had to go and do. It was kind of like an interview, like where he would ask questions. Like I remember that he would ask like, "Oh, do you have?" Do you know of any condition or anything that might prevent you from becoming a father? And I remember that like I was like, not that I know of. So there is that. So it's like going into marriage, like even though you expect, hey, like I more than likely will be a dad, but then there's that situation or possibility that like maybe God won't send us children, right? So I remember that specific situation that I had to like say no, like I don't know, it's up to God. And so after going through that process, getting married, and then like in the honeymoon stage, like it's like you got married, and so therefore you're like right off the bat we were like just ready for what the Lord had stored for us as far as children. And so I remember like already in the honeymoon, like we were just like open to that. And so I remember that let me see, it was like right off the bat we were just trying to make it happen. And so I remember that it took until we got married in October, early October, and it was until around I think early February.
3 months.
Yeah, around that. That like
She was pregnant.
she was pregnant, and so it's like we kind of already were expecting like or just looking forward to that, and it was just like
I love the fact that you guys immediately were open to life.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people get married and it's like, oh, we're just gonna wait 2 more years, and we're gonna enjoy ourselves and things like that. It's like, have you ever heard that? It's like
Yeah.
some people sometimes like, oh, we got married, but we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait. We're gonna travel. We're gonna enjoy ourselves. I'm like, what have you been doing though? That's always my question. It's like, what have you been doing? It's like you've been dating, you've been getting to know each other, you've been enjoying yourselves, and then not to say that you shouldn't. There's a time and season for giving birth, but to to limit yourselves from the God's gift. I love the fact that immediately you guys were married and you went to that interview with Father Brendan and you're like, oh no, we're open to life. We want to have children. There shouldn't be any barriers unless God says no, not right now.
Yeah.
So I love that. And so, was there any concern? I mean, were you like, I'm worried to be a dad, things like that?
I wouldn't say concerned. Just I guess in the moment you're like yeah, we want to have children, but then sometimes it's good to okay, yearn for children, but then again, that gift comes with great responsibility because
Spider-Man.
yeah, so it's like yeah, like I remember my aunt, like she said, she made a comment once, like she while looking at Agustin when he was smaller, she's like, it's so easy to make them, right, or that's how she said it, like to bring them to the world, right, but then like the after is the part that like at times should put us to think that, hey, like it's not only like bringing them, but it's also like being prepared to be able to raise them and like accompany them and help them like become the men and women that God wants them to become, and that's not easy.
Yeah, your aunt like totally hit that on the head when she says, "Yeah, it's easy to make them.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and it's fun to make them too."
Mm-hmm.
Just for you guys who are listening to this, yeah, God made sex, the union of man and woman, to be enjoyable, but it's the reason why you're doing it is for that gift of procreation, to create life. I love that whole thing where it's like to create life. You get to be a partaker of being like God because you get to create life. That two people get to be part of creation, and I think that's so amazing. That was one of those things that I was just so floored by when like my first child was born. I'm like, oh my gosh, we made we made a baby.
Yeah.
And look at this. It's like, and they're so dependent on you,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, oh my God, what have you given me? Now it's like my life changes. So
Yeah.
so for you, I mean, did life change for you?
Well, it did because just like any like new adventure, like it comes with like demands, and it requires you to adjust because, like, for example, I got married when I was 27, so like I lived with my parents until then, and so of course I went through different stages of life where like I was a kid, and then I started to become a little bit more independent as to like, okay, I would do this, I would do that, but then after when Agustin was born, now it meant that like I have to be like there for of course for my wife, as being first, but of course the baby, like the our it's like Ellie and I together and one being, like so basically it's like I had to like do a 360 in a sense, because now I have to every day learn something new, that it's like a lesson that I had to in a way go through to be able to learn or start learning how to become a dad, because like I don't know, the saying like one doesn't like is not born being a dad, but more than anything, like one is being made by every day, every
Yeah.
experience.
Like having a child didn't come with an instruction manual, because every single child is different,
Mhm.
and so it's crazy that at such a young age. I was 27 when I got married. 28 when we had Dana, and so you're still young,
Yeah.
and you don't know, and so how did you figure out being a dad? I mean, trial and error.
I mean, I'm still on that path. Like, I'm still on that like learning phase. Despite us having our second boy, um, but I remember. Let me see where I wanted to go. So it's like I think I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say something, but it slipped my mind. So can you ask the question again?
Well, it's just just no questions here. So it's just what was it? What was it that is it trial and error? How did you figure out how to raise your children? Because everyone always says, you always get like the tias and the tios and the abuelas and the abuelos. It says, oh, you should do this or you should do that, or your baby's crying or you just let them cry. And so for me, I love the fact that there are sometimes those moments where we just said, you know what, this is how we're going to raise our child. And thank you very much for your
Correct.
your help. And did you get any advice? Did you take that advice? Did you offend some tias because you didn't take that advice? Did you get like tias who says, oh, that's what's gonna happen? It's like, I told you that's why he's like that. It's
Yeah.
like, so it's like those fun things that happen. So for you, you know, what did you learn? How did you learn it? Those ups and downs. This is that moment where I said, the I confess part of these episodes is, there are moments where I just didn't know what the crap I was doing, and I'm reading books. The advantage I had was my field of study and my education was on development, on childhood development, on development disabled. So I kind of used what I knew and how to care for patients with developmental disabilities of 2 years and below on raising my children. But after toddlerhood, I was in the mental health field now, so it's kind of like for you were not into the mental health or developmental health field, and yours is electronics. So it's like these kids aren't robots. So
No.
so how did you as a father learn how to go about raising men, future men?
Well, let me see. Yeah, as you mentioned, like trial and error, and like as I said, every need, because like literally, it's like once the child is born, once Agustin was born, every day, it was something new. Like it was something unseen. So it's like trial and error as you go. Luckily, I had, of course, as you mentioned, like tias or your mom or like your mother-in-law, like they're able to aid you in different areas, and definitely, like there were different instances where their help, their suggestions were helpful to help us, and to help me, help our child, our children now. But yeah, it's like I remember having the ability, or the had to go through the opportunity of caring for. I remember like caring for my cousins. As I was growing up, I remember that I would help with my cousins, like putting to sleep, changing them. I'm not too sure, helping. Like I remember that I grew up like caring for kids, like.
So you had experience though. So it's one of those things. It wasn't new for you because I've known you since youth ministry. So you've always had that compassionate heart. You're always like the one who was caring for all the young men and all the other people. So you always had that in you. And so you saw firsthand how to take care of people. So this wasn't new for you, except the problem is they're yours.
Yes. So although it's relatable in that, okay, I've seen this before, I've had some exposure, but it's totally different when it's your very own, because then that like brings different questions. Am I doing enough? And and like just to like Agustin, like their temperaments, like as he grew up, like there were stages where like I as a father wouldn't be able to know how to react or how to handle a specific situation, like specifically with tantrums.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but luckily, you know, your field of study was something closer to like how to like raise or like interact with individuals to help them and form them. My wife Elizabeth, she actually studied psychology, so she has some sort of like kind of like the missing piece to sort of like be that companion to aid with the specific area. And then of course like she's the one that like has the resources, and like she's like a little bit more like on top of things about reading stuff and for like the psychology part of
What's
things.
the biggest challenge for you, Diego, for being a dad?
The biggest challenge?
Like, what's the hardest thing that you've encountered? And it's like, for me, it was kind of like I always wanted to be there, but never had enough time. And I wanted to be at every single thing in their lives. And I was one of those. I was a jealous dad because it was like, why do you get to spend so much time with the children, and what about me? So I was like, I really loved being a dad. So so that was a challenge for me. Also, a challenge for me was like, how do you discipline? It's like, disciplining children is so hard because my mom used to tell me, this hurts me more than it hurts you. And when I was a kid, it's like, no, it doesn't. It hurts. But yeah, it's like disciplining your kids and seeing them cry because they don't understand. That hurts, and people don't realize that hurts. So, what was some of the challenges you have or had as being a young dad? I mean, your kids are what, 4 and 2?
Yeah, Agustina's going into 5 on September, and Diego is about to be 2 in March.
Diago's only 1?
1, yeah, he's gonna be 2 in March.
I thought he was turning 3. That kid's so smart.
No, he eats a lot.
He's big. That kid's a big boy. Yeah, Diego has such the cutest children. It's like,
Thank you.
we want to borrow them all the time. We don't want to borrow everyone's children, but just only Diego's children. But
yeah, so to answer your question, so definitely the discipline, like that's something that as he's growing, because it's a new stage, and like I mean I had some sort of exposure to like my siblings, my cousins, of like how to discipline, but like with the different temperaments, like that's where I'm still like learning, and then Elizabeth also is a great aid to help with that, and we're learning as we go. But yeah, it's like it's not perfect, and yeah, it's like every day, every stage it's a new like reason for us to sort of like adjust our approaches and stuff like that.
there are times where you beat yourself up because you think you did something wrong and you totally ruin your child.
Yeah, so it's so like maybe with things we said, or maybe how we handled, like for example, like thinking about like when Agustin was saying, like he was saying like the way I'm a dad, like he would say like phrases like I'll kill you, I'm gonna kill you. So it's like that frustrated me to the point that like I probably didn't handle it in the proper way, but like it's like, and then Ellie explains to me, like his brain at this stage, like it's not ready, it's not prepared to be able to process and to be at the level that you are, and so it's like things like that. It's like it's a challenge that it's like, I mean, it's just, I mean, not knowing, like, or maybe questioning, is this the right approach? Am I doing it right? But yeah, definitely, it's something that, I mean, God also at times like we have to recur to Him and be like, God, like help me, because it's like.
it's always hard, and when you're always wondering about, did I do it right? Did I do it wrong? Did I, is my child gonna grow up wrong because I said this? And I think for me, one of the hardest things is to hear your child cry because of something that you perceive that you did, and you want to go over there and console them, but it's like, are you supposed to? Are you not supposed to? And then one of the things that was hard for me was, I had my mother who stayed with us, and my wife's grandmother who stayed with us. So you had like the people who were like helping you raise them, but also you're like, but these are my children. So those are some of the challenges I had, is raising my own kids. But one of the things that I'm glad that I did was that I did choose to raise my own children. Because my mom used to always say, your children should smell like you. Which means that, they grow up knowing you. A lot of times, kids are, they grow up with a babysitter more than they do with their parents. Yeah. And so then parents wonder, it's like, I don't even know my children. So I don't know. It's kind of like those things that I think are important, that our kids know us, so that they grow up to be ours, and we can't blame anyone but ourselves. And so, for those people who are young adults out there who are looking forward to having children, or are now having children, what would you say is probably one of the best advice that you can give them as a dad, speaking to other dads out there, other young dads out there?
I would say to try to be open to the grace of, just as it says in the Bible, to the husband should be the like just looking at the cross, how Christ is crucified. That's essentially what you are as a father, as a husband. It's like learning and accepting that state of like that you are gonna have to now learn, if you haven't, or ask the Lord to give you the grace to learn how to be even more selfless. If you were already, like, be even more, because now like you are gonna have to represent God the Father for your children, and being able to sacrifice and be that father figure for them is definitely the best advice. Like, there's of course a lot of different areas where as a father figure, like we should be able to be formed in, but I think in a nutshell, where we are not going to miss, and from that everything will come, is if you try to emulate Jesus in the cross. Like, that's essentially something that like that is going to get us far as fathers, father figures.
Exactly. One of the things I admire about you and Ellie is that the two of you met at church, and you serve at church, and you continue to serve at church, and you put God in the center. And so, how do you, as a father, because sometimes we get so busy in our lives because we're worried about providing for our children and keeping them safe, that I think a lot of men out there neglect one major thing in life, is putting God in the center of the family and placing them in our children. How are you maneuvering that into your life? How are you putting that as part of your life? Are you like putting it aside? Are you including your children in it? I mean, how are you doing it? For the people listening out there, because I always say is, I can tell young people this and that, but when they hear it from a person who's closer in age than them, it kind of makes more sense. So, how have you been doing that? Because I know you guys, but people out there don't know you. So how have you how have you been, as we say, leading your little ones to Christ? And I know that you made a promise one time. I want you to share that. You went to our Blessed Mother when you had Augustine, and you made an offering. You remember that? You'd said that you offered your child to the Lord, and if so tell us a little bit more about that, because I had never heard of something like that, and I thought that was so cool.
Um, I mean, to be honest, I don't remember I mean, it's like I remember Ellie telling me this, that, like, we were talking about how I was Juan Diego in the play, and she was the Virgin Mary, and she was trying to like remember the lines, and she's like, I don't remember, like, I just remember the initial part of it, but then the rest I didn't, because of the pregnancy. Like, after I was a mom, like, I kind of like lost some memory or something, and I would say I kind of lost some memory on that promise that you made. But I do remember that um, I pretty much said, Lord, like, Agustin as our firstborn, um, I desire for him to be like offered to, like, for you to make him a bishop one day, or for him to be a bishop, or somebody that is going to serve you in that area. And because, like, for us, the fact that, like, it's so helpful that in a way we're on the same page of raising our children in the faith, and, as you said, trying to put God in the center, because I mean we are by far perfect, and of course, at times we are not like 100%, like, we stray a bit at times, because of, like, all these different things that we have to tend to, like, work, or like laundry, like doing all these things at home, and that at times, like, we might not be as tidy in, like, prayer or stuff like that. So but we always try to like, put God in the center, and having a spouse that is in the same page, it is definitely helpful. Yeah, but it's it's something that I like, for example, just thinking about this, like, I met or learned about this Monsignor from Mexico, and that actually inspired me. Like, hey, like who knows? Like, maybe I would have wanted to learn more about the priesthood, in this specific through this specific priest. Maybe that would have, maybe, I don't know, like, maybe geared me a little bit more towards that direction. But that's not where the Lord wanted me. So I was like, Agustin should be, like, the one who I remember one time, um, I think, I don't know if he was a bishop or a priest from Mexico. He was very important. Like, he came when Ellie was pregnant, and I remember that he did a prayer, and then I remember, I think I thought this, like, I wish Agustin would be, like, like a bishop, or like somebody like that would serve the Lord in that regard. Um, but funny story, right now Tiago is the one that's, like, wanting to play priest the whole time, and Agustin is a little bit more, like, adamant about that. Like, he's not really.
I saw that. It was hilarious because Ellie sends me pictures of your two sons, and I cracked up because I think Thiago had like an old white shirt, and it was just like his album, and they were playing mass, and was he the priest giving communion to Agustin, or Agustin was giving communion to Thiago?
Yeah, so I think it started with Agustin wanted to play mass, and he wanted to be the priest. But then after, like, I don't know if he kind of got bored, like, okay, yeah, it lost its magic. And then Tiago came in, and he's a little bit more engaged now. And so at times, Agustin is what's it called? The one that helps the priest.
The deacon?
The deacon, or the
sacristan?
Yeah, or they switch roles, I think, at times. But lately, Diego has been the priest most of the time, and then Agustin is just helping.
That's
So
so
now
fun.
I'm like, Lord, if you want both of them for the priesthood, take them.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that because that's what God desires,
Mm-hmm.
is that He wants him to to guide His flock back to Him, and I love that because I was looking at my scripture verse that I wanted to share with you, because I think it's important for us to kind of look at what I've been thinking about, and it's in John chapter 21, and it's in verse 15, when this is that part where the resurrection of Jesus and the disciples were on the boat, and they came, they see this guy on the shore with a charcoal fire, and they rush and they see it's Jesus, and Peter was the first one there, and Jesus asked Peter, he says, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" And he said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know I love you." He said to him, "Feed my lambs, feed my lambs." He then said to him a second time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to the third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was distressed that he had said to him a third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." And Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep." I love that part because I see that in the two of you. I see you and Elizabeth, and especially you as a dad, speaking on that, because 2 times he spoke about sheep. Tend my sheep, feed my sheep. And then he said, feed my lambs. And the reason why I share that is because many times in our life, we look at asking the church to catechize and teach our children, and Jesus didn't put it that way. Jesus didn't say, "Oh, well, yeah, teach some people and they'll teach them." But he said, "Feed my sheep," and sheep are grown, and the sheep are the ones who feed the lambs. So I love the fact that I've been walking with you guys for like a long time, and you guys are some of the most amazing individuals, and you especially as a father. I always look at you as like, man, if someone would have been a person that I would look up to as a father, who I would looked at when I was a kid, it's like, I want that guy to be my dad. It would have been you. It would have been you. You're one of those dads that I believe has an impact on young people, and you'll have that impact on your children. And one of the most amazing things in this verse is that, how do we keep our children in love with God and His church? And it's by catechizing parents. It's teaching parents the faith and asking them to live out the faith, because if parents are living out the faith, they'll feed their lambs. So that's the one thing that I wanted to share, because I think many a times parents are sending their kids to for formation because they're not formed, and I think that's one of the things that we ought to really look at, is how do we form parents. And I think it's by asking people like you to share that with your friends and be witnesses to that. So that's my Catholic dad confession. But for you, like, how do you keep them engaged in the faith? I know they're young, they're still babies,
Yeah.
but you guys are already doing. I mean, I see you guys at mass where Augustine is like all over the place. You guys are so patient. I know it's like there are times where it's like, oh, Diego's losing his patience,
Yeah.
but you still take them, and I love that, because there are many times where I see parents, oh, we didn't take our kids because they're not going to behave. Like, well, God didn't ask them to behave. He just asked them. He just asked, bring the little children to me. He didn't say bring the little good children to me and the not behaved children, leave them at home. He says just bring the little children to me. I love when I see little children. I love it when I see you guys bring your kids. So I know that you know with certain mass and you love the mass. I know you love the mass and you love the prayer. How do you go about teaching that to your lambs? How do you feed your lambs?
Regarding mass?
Yeah, regarding mass, regarding prayer. I mean, what's your routine?
Okay. Yeah, so sidetracking a little bit, and I'll connect it. And going off of how, like you mentioned, how the parents should be able to have that formation to then feed their lambs. I remember, and this I'll never forget. Like my mom was the one that, like, I remember catechized me. So I remember going to catechism, and she was the one like who formed me in a way. She helped me for confirmation. She was the one who helped me with that. And then now having Ellie be again in the same page and be that, you know, support and aid in this path and raising our children, to how to be, you know, hopefully saints one day. We try to, like, everything we do, like we try to connect it to the faith. Like right now Agustin is in that stage where we pray in the morning, and then we pray at night, and like I try to like give him the space to sort of like engage in a conversation with God of like what he wants to like pray, like who he wants to pray for, and then he kind of just like engages in that. With Diego, like the fact that we are going to mass, and we like pray, we say grace, like we pray before like when we're gonna eat. Agustin is already like doing that himself. Like we try to bring faith elements into our daily lives. We try to go to mass. At times we're like we should go, like try to go like every day, or like try to go often, not only on the weekends. Um, we are still, you know, in that process of struggling because Ellie and I are a little bit like more on the quiet side, and like we're still struggling about like in mass, sitting in mass, and they're like making noises and stuff. We're much better on that. They're a little bit better too, but then again, it's like we see other couples there, other families that take their children, and they're in the same boat. And the key here is to, despite, you know, the children are in a way ready to sit the whole time in mass, but the fact that we're taking them, that is exposing them to learn how to like to learn about the faith, learn about the saints, learn about God, and starting to form their conscience, their exposure to like faith based things, and that helps us also grow as a couple, and it helps us feed them in many ways, like maybe through a book. Ellie is big on that, or just overall like the rosary. It's ruckus. We still like I remember recently Agustin had prayed a mystery by himself, kind of like all the way. So at times as parents we demand a lot from our children, but I think it's just perseverance and like just being at it, like going at it, like if it's the rosary, like trying to pray the rosary, or even a small prayer, like just incorporating elements of the faith into their lives is going to start to form them to accustom to that and learn knowing that, to prepare them for what's coming in the future.
Yeah, it's basically living out the faith, right? It's like they're seeing that, oh, this is our life, this is how we live, this is what we do.
Yeah.
It's not like there was a video I think a youth group did, which was cheap faith. Yeah, I remember that. That's like that was Hennessy's. He did cheap faith. I wonder where those kids are today. But it's not cheap faith. It's not like a faith that I just pretend, or I'm only in here for like the good times, or but it's how actually I live, and I think that's true for you. Is anyone who sees Diego, it's like, oh yeah, that's a Catholic dad right there. That's that guy. You're not going to see anything but even how you live your life, how you play sports, how you treat others. I think that is the greatest witness that you show your sons because I hate to say it, folks, but your sons become their fathers.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a great example of a dad who had fortitude, courage, and responsibilities, and you live up to that. And sometimes people don't see that, but you saw that. And I see that you're trying to be all of that and more. As my mom would always say, you got to do better than me. And I think I see that in you. So, what are some other things that you're like, oh man, I screwed up, or I wish I would have done this differently, or I wish I would have done this better, or I wish I would have known this. It's like every year, it's kind of like, oh, I know more, but you can't really go back.
No.
but it's like, you get better, and then, it's always like, oh, now you have a second child. It's like, oh, didn't make that mistake. So are there times where you feel like I spent more time with my firstborn than I did with my secondborn, where sometimes you feel like, I think I'm neglecting my secondborn?
I would say, let me see. So in this case, I would say, okay, Agustin was born around the pandemic, like around that time. So yeah, of course, being at home. So I think that helped me be there because like dads, like they have to go to work, they have to be away from the home. And for Agustin, I had the blessing to be at home and see him grow and trial and error, like experience these different situations of being a father. And I would say at the moment, Agustin is a little bit more independent. He still does need, like me to play with him, like attention. But I would say Tiago is where I'm a little bit more now. Like I remember when he was born, because I was working from home, I would also spend a lot of time with him. And I remember like I always would be carrying him. Like even when we went to mass, to daily mass, I would like be carrying him so that he wouldn't make noise and stuff like that. So it's like, I would say right now, maybe Tiago is having a little bit more attention. It does help that Agustin, in a way, he's more independent as to like, okay, he's reading something, he's doing something, he's active like the whole day. So Tiago, like, is receiving a little bit more attention at the moment. So it's a little bit, it's not your scenario, but yeah, but definitely like, let me see, one aspect where I would be like, okay, I wish I could do better, it would be maybe like the playtime. The playtime, because I have to work, 8 hours, and so at times that stretches because I have to help at the house and stuff like that. So it stretches my day longer, and so at times I don't have much time to play with them, and so I would say that's an area where I could say I could improve a little bit more, like just having more quality time and playing with them.
You have an advantage too. You work from home, huh?
Yeah.
See, that's so cool. Because it's like it's not like me. I can't bring the hospital to me.
Yeah,
I have
correct.
to go to the hospital. But is that a good or bad, or good and bad?
So I would say it has its advantages and disadvantages because again, even though I'm there, at times I'm like, okay, Agustin comes and then he interrupts and he's like, oh, I need to show you something. Okay, at times I'm like, okay, show me, but it's not like, it's like it's rushed, or so it's like it's complicated because then at times, like, because I have to work, like I start at a certain time and then because I have to stop and I have to do these things, then at times I end up with like already being the night. Agustin has to go to sleep, and like I didn't really have much time to have much of a quality play with him. Or at times I do get to read books, and so it's like sort of like balance in a way, but I wish we had a little bit more time.
What are you looking forward to as they grow up? Because right now they're always at home and you have them. But gradually they're going to go into sports
Yeah.
and things like that. So what is it that you're looking forward to?
So right now, I would say Ellie has been like a great support because like right now, Agustin, we are starting to like he's gonna be going to school or start school. I think this year, if I think so. So we're gonna homeschool him. That's our plan. Our plan for our children to homeschool, and so we started to. I mean, Ellie is on top of this, but she's like looking for stuff to put him in so that he has that engagement with other children, and so right now, um, he's going to a class in Woodcrest, and she's taking him, and I went the first time with them, and so I actually took part of that, and he's getting that exposure, like learning about animals in the farm and stuff like that. So it's helping him. But I know that as he grows up, and Diego as well, like maybe like he's gonna like sports, and so he's gonna start to become even more independent. And so I think one of the things that like I'm looking for is to be able to like maybe have like deeper conversations because like we already kind of do like in the night like Agustin throughout the day like he's like full of energy and like it surprises me because in the night when he's gonna go to sleep he's more like winding down a little bit and he actually at times asks deep questions and so that's kind of like a foretaste of what could come in the future like having those deeper conversations with him so I think that would be um, one of the things I'm looking for, as well as I think there are. I don't know if you have heard of the troops of the Saint George or something like that.
Oh yeah. It's kind of
Ellie,
like an alternative to like the well,
Boy
it used to be
Scouts?
called Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
Now it's like Scouts of America.
I-
But yeah, in the St. George, St. George.
so I
Actually,
think.
I have one of their books. Also, there's this group called Fraternus
Oh,
for
okay.
young men. I think it's past that when they get to like middle school, high school. It's Fraternus, and it's kind of like scouting, but it's has a Catholic basis for it or religious or Christian based teachings.
Oh.
So that's going to be something that's going to be pretty amazing. But is that something that he's gonna enter into?
Well, Ellie is like she's the one like she's helpful in like the like I don't know the word like helping me, encouraging, like hey, this.
She's
this,
pushing you.
Yeah.
She's pushing
So
for
she's
it.
helping, yeah. So definitely, it's I mean, a great companion.
That's gonna take a lot of time too.
Yeah.
It's really gonna challenge you for regarding time management because there's only so much time.
Yeah.
During the day, but that really challenges fathers to do a lot of those things. You're gonna end up being a coach one day because your son's playing.
Yeah. and here's that I heard from I forgot his first name, but Dinoco. He's a speaker in the United States.
He's a speaker.
Like right now he's in the stage of his life where he has to be like with his sons, like if they're gonna go to the movies, like he's engaging in that time age of their children, because if he doesn't, then other people will. And so like that's another thing to like for fathers, to think about that. Like it's gonna come that stage where they're teenagers and they're gonna start to maybe look at their peers or their friends and recur to them more. But if we as fathers do our best to be there and like have had that connection with them, we will help them like be prepared for the world and the challenges that come with those stages in life.
Yeah, I love that whole aspect of saying that what one of the things that you need to do is be present for your son, and a lot of times their friends look up to you and you're actually fathering by proxy other young people, because they look up to you, and so that's a great way to actually witness Christ to people, because there are a lot of young men out there who don't have fathers, and they're looking at people to be that example. So it's actually a great way for you to be able to witness to them, and as the gentleman who you spoke to about, is that's that stage in life that everyone ends up going into, where that is one of those things where it's kind of like, well, yeah, I have to sacrifice my time. I can't do this with my buddies because our priorities are God's gift. So, where was that moment? When you felt like, man, I know what God feels like, because He created life. So it was. I always love that part where I look at things and I'm like, man, this is what God means when like He created life and He loves each of us equally. And it was, for me, it was when my second child was born, because I was really like, I loved my first child so much. I was like, you love them so much, and you pour out all your love over them, and then your second one, your wife's pregnant again, and you're like, well, how am I going to love that second one just as much? I'm like, I can't. I don't know how you can do that. And then Lauren was born, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know now. I know. And Maria, my wife, was just saying, it's like, you're stupid. It's like, why would you even think that? And it's like, now I know. God loves each and every one of us equally, and completely, and amazingly, because it was like, as soon as Lauren was born, it's like, oh yeah, I just love her to death, and I love both of them to death. So for you, what's the best part about being a dad?
Best part.
That's a hard question.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot, but what's the best part of being a dad?
Let me see.
People would say the times when they're quiet and sleeping, that's the best part. Just kidding.
I mean, as humans, like, we tend to strive to be comfortable and not undergo like a lot of stress, or like just take it easy, But I think I would say, despite the hardship of, like, that being a father is not easy, I would say the best part is to like being given the opportunity to be one in the first place. Because it's like, if you think about it, it's like, just thinking about it right now, like, you're entrusted.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like you're entrusted, like, someone that, or beings that, like, were meant to be in heaven, like, we're meant to be with God, and, and it's like, first being given the grace, the opportunity to, you along with your spouse, be parents. That's just like, it doesn't even have a like explanation, because it's like, no, it's like, it's like, even till now, it's like, we can't really wrap our minds around, like, just how everything comes to be. Like, just thinking about, like I remember explaining to Agustin, hey Agustin, like, you were like this small when you were little, like, at first, like, we couldn't even really see you, and then, like, you started to, like, grow and grow and grow, and it's like, it's just like, yeah, just to like I remember this too. Like I always like ponder about and think like I'm someone that exists. Like I exist because of my parents,
Yeah.
and I'm just like it's just like I don't know the words to describe it. It's just like it's crazy, mind blowing
Yeah.
that like I exist because of my parents, and I think that's just in and of itself like the best part, like that we exist and like now they exist.
It's that awe and
Yeah.
wonder.
So.
Yeah. It's like, again, it's like being like God,
Mm-hmm.
being part of being a creator.
Mm-hmm.
You know, He's allowing us to experience what it's like to be the creator. So understanding, giving us that opportunity to understand what God, in a little way, is like in His love. And so, for me, that's always been an amazing thing that happened, that realization that, oh my gosh, that's what creation is like. That's what falling in love is. That's what God's love is. And a lot of times that's missed by a lot of people. So, on that, what else do you have to say to confess about being a father, being a Catholic dad?
Um. mm, Like a suggestion or just
Yeah. Anything you want to say to people?
um maybe just again a reminder, um, reinforcing the idea that it's like for those that want to be like yearn to be a dad, a father, like just be aware that like you have to be prepared to like take ownership of that status, because again we have to strive to be that father figure, that father, like God the Father for our children, and it is not going to be easy. Like at times, like I remember thinking like it's like you don't have enough time in a way for yourself. Like you have to learn that once you're married and once you have family, yes, you do have time for yourself, but now it's like I think once you're in that stage, you'll see what I mean. But it's like now it's not about you. It's about them and your wife. It's like learning how to be selfless and be that Christ in the cross.
Amen.
Yeah. And it's not going to be easy, because at times you're going to be like, oh, I wish this, I wish I had a little bit more time for this. Or if you played sports, like the life that you had before you were married is going to completely change once you have your little ones, especially like because of they're born, and then they go through the different stages, and then of course once they get married, they like are in that stage of their life when they're gone from the home, like then still you're still gonna be like you still need to be there. So it's like until you're gone from this world, that's until when you like are gonna like have time for you in a way.
Yeah,
Again.
it's never ending. There's it's you're a dad forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're given this gift, you're given this title, and it's not like something that you can just say, "Oops,
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with it." I mean, there are people who would do that, but
Yeah.
Real dads stay,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just how it is. And so, thank you for coming on the show, Diego.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for being so vulnerable to come on and share and witness of what fatherhood is, what being a dad is. And that's what I call for like this series of I Confess, because it's not literally a confession of the things that I did wrong, although a lot of times as we go along, we do make mistakes, but being present and being that real dad, the best version of being a dad, that's, I believe, is what we're called to. So I hope people are learning, taking notes of what we said, what you said, and coming around to that. So thank you again for coming on the show. So on that note, fam, we're gonna end these episodes with saying that prayer. And I love this prayer because at Mass it's called the Confiteor. And so we're gonna say it right here, and we're gonna end the show with this. I confess to Almighty God and to you, my brothers and sisters, that I have greatly sinned in my thoughts and in my words, in what I have done and in what I have failed to do, through my fault, through my most grievous fault. Therefore I ask Blessed Mary, ever Virgin, all the angels and saints, and you, my brothers and sisters, to pray for me to the Lord our God. Amen. And after that, we get an absolution from the priest. All our venial sins, all the things that we made wrong are forgiven. And as usual, I love that prayer. So on that note, fam, thanks for listening. Thanks for following us. Thanks for supporting us through our Patreon. If you want to send us an email, a comment, or if you want to come on the show, email me at catholic.dad50@gmail.com, or simply DM me on our Instagram at catholic.dad, or search us up at This Connected podcast, and find us that way. And if I don't get to you as soon as I can, that means, well, I'm a busy Catholic dad. So on that note, please pray for each other and for me and for our guests. And as always, live a life of holiness. Be blessed and be third. See you on the next episode. Bye, guys.